Greetings everyone, this is David, and in this video I'm going to be giving an explanation on why the incarnation does not contradict God, right? So one of the common criticisms you hear about the incarnation is, how can God who is invisible become visible? How can God who is incorporeal become corporeal? How can God who is unlimited become limited, etc., etc.? It will kind of deal with that specific question. I'm not going to be getting into the heavy philosophical terminology in this video. If you want to watch Christology explained using those terms, you can there's a bunch of other videos you can check, especially from the History of Christian Theology series, which all of it is going to be at the end of this video and in the description below. You can check the recommended videos section if you want to watch more advanced videos. But in this video, I'm going to be trying to keep things simple here. So when we talk about attributes such as incorporeality or immateriality, a lot of people think, being immaterial means you don't have a body, right? Or being invisible means that you're unable to be visible, for example. That, first of all, those are correct terms to be applied to the divine essence, but in terms of God overall, is it really true? I mean, angels and souls, they're also immaterial, but they're not fully immaterial like God is, right? Their immateriality is not a divine immateriality, because if they were, they will also be omnipresent, right? Well, souls and angels, they're obviously located at a time and space, right? Even though this space is not like a space, physical space, it is still some kind of a space. Whereas, God is omnipresent, right? But God can. So when we speak about immateriality, we don't mean immateriality in the sense of lacking a body. Immateriality really means beyond materiality, right? Beyond visibility and all of these different ends that we can be talking about. It's about how God transcends those things, right? Now, God transcending materiality does not mean that he cannot manifest in creation to become visible, for instance. He has done that numerous times in the Old Testament. I'm not going to be talking about the various different examples, but the burning bush is a great example. Exodus 33 is another decent example. Jacob wrestling with God is another example. I mean, we can name them, but angel of the Lord, right? That's another example. But suffice it to say, the point that I'm trying to make is that God manifesting in creation to become visible, even in his divinity, does not contradict himself, right? So visibility and invisibility really aren't contradictory, even though God is invisible. It is just that God, by his own free choice, can, manifest in creation in whatever form he desires to, because he has that power. Now that we've understood the anti-dialectical nature of God's attributes, we can move on to the next part of this presentation, which is what does contradict God then? And the one thing that contradicts God, as you can see in the page, this page is from the book Transformation of Divine Simplicity by Galovitz, and it's a decent book, and it's a decent book for this page alone. I will say it's worth reading this book for this page alone, because it talks about what contradicts God, and this is a topic that Saint Gregory of Nyssa talks about. And Saint Gregory of Nyssa argues that since God is goodness himself, the only thing therefore that will contradict God is evil. St. Gregory says, let them demonstrate that the birth, the upbringing, the growth, the advance towards natural maturity, the experience of death, and the rising from death are vicious. Alternatively, if they claim that the things we mentioned are free of vice, they will necessarily agree that foreignness to vice is in no way shameful. So what St. Gregory of Nyssa is arguing here is that these human experiences aren't evil, right? Now, there are some human experiences that is a result of the fall, and there's no reason to assume them. So, for example, some Muslims use the argument of, oh, you believe God poops. Oh, you believe God, first of all, the human nature that Christ assumed is an Adamic nature. It's a pre-fallen human nature. So he does not have those natural inclinations. That's number one. Number two, he still appropriates and assumes the blameless passions for the sanctification of those activities in or progress to spiritual growth. So, for example, hunger, right? He still assumes hunger, because by assuming hunger, he is deifying the experience of fasting, right? This is why, for example, in the Orthodox Church, we fast quite regularly. I mean, every Wednesday and Friday, the entirety of Lent, different parts of the calendar, etc., etc. Fasting is important for that spiritual growth. And there's also other reasons as well, but I'm not going to get too much into that. This is not the video for it. What I'm trying to say here is that blameless passions, they're not evil as well, right? They're not shameful either. There are some shameful things that we do, but Christ didn't do them and he didn't assume them because, again, they're shameful. They don't progress us to goodness or to the perfect goodness, you can say, and so there was no necessity to assume them. In short, becoming man is not evil. God created everything and declared it as good. Human nature is naturally good, right? So incarnating as man, in fact, does not contradict the divine nature because, again, the only thing that contradicts God is evil. And St. Augustine, in fact, has a very strong argument for this. He says, the true divinity cannot be contaminated by the flesh, right? So human nature does not contaminate divinity. It's the opposite, right? God's healing contact with human flesh in Jesus Christ cleanses humanity. So to believe otherwise is not simply to denigrate the world God has created. It is to misunderstand and limit God by setting up the world as barrier to God's saving activity. So what is really being said here? If you deny the incarnation and you say it contradicts God, then you're pretty much implying that that creation is evil. In fact, Gnostics had that kind of ability. That's why they rejected the incarnation, or they try to have their weird alternatives like the incarnation being a hologram, etc., etc. Gnostics believed that creation was evil. A lot of the Hellenic pagan philosophers believed creation was evil, and so the anti-incarnational arguments you see from Muslims, for example, in fact contradict their own worldview, right? The only thing that contradicts God is evil. If the incarnation contradicts God, then that will mean creation is evil, right? And then the question becomes then, how can something God created be evil, right? It completely contradicts the very basis of a lot of the majority world religions today. And Christianity, therefore, has a very unique take and a very accurate understanding between the relationship of God and his creation. And some people might then say, well, why didn't, for example, God incarnate as an animal or an angel or whatever? It is because, first of all, the reason why he incarnate as man is because man is made in the image of God, right? And so man could be further deified by being, united with the divinity, so to speak. But the rest of the creation, because they exist in the context of man, because the man is the macrocosm of creation. Creation was made for the benefit of man, right? The manner in which the rest of creation is saved starts with the incarnation and with Christ recapitulating that is uniting all things in himself. And this is in fact a Pauline concept that is forgotten in Western theology. I have a video specifically talking about that called Introduction to Forgotten Christianity, which I would definitely recommend you check for a deeper understanding of the doctrine of recapitulation. But the incarnation also has, again, it is connected with salvation and deification of the entire cosmos. And that's what I want to finish my video with. So if you want to see more videos like this, you can become a patron financier like these guys I'm about to shout out. You can see the link in the description below. Thank you to Onan, Diet, Sodalite, Allison, Eddie, Father Justin, Node, Maximus, Mitch, Jonathan, Steven, Vlad, Kerry, Ignatius, Mike, Jack, Nectarius, Flooded Basement, Dave, Colton, Seraphim, and Norbert. Thank you all for supporting me, and thank you all for watching this video. If this video was helpful for you, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, like, comment, whatever is on your mind, and I will see all of you in the next video. Thank you for watching. May God be with you all, and goodbye.